Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry. I'm joined today by Max, who is, well, let's be honest, he's usually here. You know?
Yeah.
It's sadly, Max hears my voice in his sleep. I'm really sorry, Max. I'm really sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
So let's react. It's a delayed reaction to the Huddersfield win, 1-0. Max, is an ugly win.
Yeah, it was.
How much?
It was a bit...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
On. I was just gonna say, right? I thought very similar to the Lincoln game in that we came out first couple of minutes and absolutely stormed them. Look, to be fair to every ball, obviously got that early goal, and then I don't know, the momentum just didn't seem to take off, did it? And then particularly after half time, it just seemed to be on a downward spiral. Next thing you know, your left back you've started injured, and his replacements just got sent off. And I must applaud Luca Dean for that, by the way. Thank you, Luca. The shithouser he was needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're in a conundrum with the left back situation. All of a sudden, it's we're thrown back in the deep end with that, and coming away from the game, as I said earlier, you feel like there's more negatives than positives. But in this case, 3 points is what we needed.
Yeah, I was going to ask, one of my questions I've got written down here about the Digne red card being worth it, despite his one-game suspension, because I believe those type of fouls are one game rather than violent conduct, which I think carries 3. I believe there's a difference in suspension there.
The way the rules have changed over the past couple of years, it is very confusing.
It's every year.
I assumed with it being a straight red, I did assume it would be the 3 games. So,
I did too at first.
Good that because we have got quite a few tough games coming up. So the sooner he's back in the side, the better. And the quicker Leighton Baines recovers fitness, the better, I suppose.
Hard to say exactly how serious his injury is at the moment.
Was it his ankle?
I couldn't tell because that's what given him trouble over the past year. Yeah. Oh, what a good question. I don't know yet. I do not know yet.
Everton luck.
Yeah. Well, I will say John Joe Kenny came in and didn't really supply a lot going forward, but he wasn't really in the opportunity to do that anyway. You know what I mean?
No.
We were a man down, and he just played stout defense.
Yeah. And you got to commend the players on the pitch when we went to 10 men. It's not in the performance. I mean, we shouldn't be 10 men. The entire game sneaking away with a 1-0 from bottom of the league. Particularly after the run of form that we've been on, you'd say on paper that isn't good enough. But you factored in it was Jan Siewert's first game as manager.
Yep.
The Huddersfield players would be up for it. And that certainly seemed to be the case because they ramped up their physicality, and we had to contend with that.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, John Joe Kenny's one of them that managed to maintain that well, and the game takes on a different dimension almost, because then you look at the performances of for example, Tom Davies, who people are talking about a lot lately, and that was an excellent performance.
Yep. Dealing with Davies. Okay, you've been saying it for weeks. I'm going to give you credit. Don't tell anybody I did this. All right? But the shifting of a formation, okay, because it didn't look like they were working with the same formational setup that they have in the past. It looked more like either 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1, where you saw Tom Davies able to get forward and actually make those runs and actually contribute around the box, which is something we've needed. We've needed an additional contributor around the box so we can actually start putting some attack in that area rather than always bombing the wings and cutting in. And that formation move actually saw Sigurdsson drop back a little bit, but actually get involved more as well.
Yeah, the form of Gylfi Sigurdsson at the moment's an interesting one. I value him very much in this Everton side, but at the present moment, I just don't feel like he's playing by his usual, compared to his usual standard, I don't think he's playing as well. So in that instance, the shifting of the formation, allowing Davies to go beyond them and try and break the lines, it boded well because, for example, in the first half, Davies' attacking performance was fantastic, and then as I said earlier, for example, when you go down to 10 men, the game changes and you've got to shoulder that defensive responsibility. And I thought he did that exceptionally well, particularly against a side like Huddersfield, who are going to try and wind you up and try and outmuscle you. So, for a young lad to be doing that, and people forget, right? He's 20 years old. He's got a lot of room to grow, and I think now we'll get a run in the side, and he will do.
He seemed a lot less naive with the ball. The way, in the past, he'll be a little overly ambitious with some of his passing, trying to thread the needle too often. However, it seemed like he was very much under control, making smarter decisions, kind of knowing when to risk.
Yeah, and I think what it seems to be what the cool kids say these days, to have a pop-up Marco Silva, but I think that's down to Marco Silva as well. I think his footballing philosophy is translated well to a player like Davies. That forward-thinking, attacking intent, which I always think, it's been in Davies' game, and he just needed the right manager to unpick it. He showed glimpses of it under Ronald Koeman, and didn't really do so, after Koeman went. But now, I get a lot of hope from that performance.
Yeah. I mean, he's still young, and one of the things we've noticed with a lot of these young players that we have, consistency issues. It's just the young folks. They come in, they put in a really good game. I don't expect him for this to be the corner. You know what I mean? Just one corner turned is overly simplified. I think it's a complex thing. A young kid kind of coming into their own. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it was just against Huddersfield, whatever. And yeah, we'll keep that in mind. We have perspective. You know what I mean? There's context here. I understand that. I'm sure you get that, Max. However, it's still a Premier League opponent.
Yeah, and he's not exactly in a controlled environment. He's in an absolute shipwreck of a football club at the moment. You see some of these top-end talents, which Davies was getting bandied in and about, the likes of the Kylian Mbappe's, etc. They are in teams that are very well balanced and stable and able to compensate, having a young player in their side. If they make a mistake, it doesn't really matter because they're in such an efficient, well-schooled system that, they can allow that. Davies, because of how, I can't even think of the right word, just how rotated we've been as a squad and as a starting 11 over the past couple of years hadn't really allowed Davies to have, the time to bed and settle in. Obviously, we've seen that he had a run of games out of the squad. But now I feel like, as I said earlier, I think he's bought into the way Marco Silva wants to play football. I think he probably picked up on it a lot quicker than some of the other lads in the squad. But yeah, I feel like, as you say, saying he's turned the corner is oversimplifying it because there's still a lot of games to go. I think, the next indicator to look at is how he plays in a big game, for example. And we've certainly got a few of them coming up over the next couple of weeks.
We do, and it's really hard to figure out how Silva's going to approach that moving forward if he's got Idrissa Gueye at his disposal.
Exactly.
And if for some reason he doesn't, but that's a different world.
But as you say, with the alternation of the formation against Huddersfield and seeing just how promising Davies is when he does get into those advanced positions, maybe this is the alarm bell to say, you know what, maybe Sigurdsson needs a rest and we can roll with Davies in that number 10 position and see what he brings. Because, and I feel like this is the point we need to bring up as well, a lot of other players, I think, when Cenk Tosun's in the squad, he drags up the standard of the players around him, which, as I've said plenty of times, I feel like he's more of a playmaker forward. In that, he gets other players involved in the game, and he was involved in that build-up play for Richarlison's goal. So, yeah, particularly with his goal against Millwall, I do think he's going to get a run in the game now, and that will bode well for other players.
That was the next player I was going to mention. Cenk Tosun having a scrappy, just just snidey game. And it wasn't all just him. He was getting clattered. People just kind of colliding into him, almost trying to rile him up. And it worked a little bit, but I actually saw a little bit of a veteran calm. It could have been worse.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great to see him hold his own against that type of opponent. Because how many times have we said that the reason why he hasn't hit the ground running and the reason why he hasn't took off is that he doesn't seem to be able to hold his own or create chances for himself. But as you say, seems to be a veteran-like ability about his game now, where if the centre half's having a go, he'll have a go as well. Yeah, he might end up on a yellow card, but if he can ride the game out, as he did until he got taken off, that's really good. And given how inconsistent we've been, in particular in the centre forward position, for him to get a goal against Millwall, for him to put in a performance like that and be involved in the build-up play for a goal, I think that warrants the starting position.
Seems like he wanted to be there. He was really, he looked like somebody who wanted to grab an opportunity. He knew he had an opportunity, which I love seeing somebody do that.
I don't think that's ever been in question about Tosin. No, I just think it's his consistency in his performances, and fingers crossed, this is the time now where the performances start to come through. You think about the goal, as I said, the involvement in in Richarlison's goal. They are all good indicators. It's just playing like that against the top teams for me. Because if you look back at his goals that he scored, they've not necessarily been up against. I think the only top half opposition that he scored against was Burnley last season, and if you look at them now, that doesn't tell you much.
And Tosin has had opportunities to score this season, and he has not been clinical. He has had opportunities; it has just not come through for him. And a guy like that, who when other people do set him up, and when he does have opportunities, the thing we need from him is a clinical finish. That is absolutely imperative. And when he's not finishing for us, what scant opportunities he is getting, that's a problem. Because we need that veteran calm. We need that veteran head. It's got to happen. Having said that, I've always loved the guy's attitude. I've been questioning whether or not he really fits Silva's system. At this point, I'm wondering if Silva's going to switch up some systems, though. That's something to consider moving forward for the rest of the season. I'm not sure. Want to finish up? Pickford looked up for it.
Good. I'm glad you made note, because without Pickford we wouldn't have won that game.
Nope.
He made a few absolutely fantastic saves. In particular, the free kick from the Luka Dean foul, which saw him get sent off. That save was absolutely spectacular, and he did make a few. And I don't mean to sound like I'm asking too much of him, but I've just come to expect that from Jordan Pickford now. I believe he's England's best goalkeeper, and he should be doing that week in, week out for his club. And barring the odd mistake, which we know he has, and he does come out with, he does save us points as well.
Yeah. And, well, there just needs... I feel like we had a stretch there where he wasn't surprising us. I think that when we get surprised with a good save, that's nice. Because we get to a point where we're almost spoiled with it. He was making good save after good save, and we're like, he's got it. And then we had this stretch where...
Mistakes.
Yeah. There were mistakes, and additionally, there were just the saves he made, we were like, they were basic saves. They weren't like those where you're like, oh damn, I need to rewind that. But some of the work that he did on Tuesday, I think even the opposing manager said that he was already ready to celebrate on that header. So yeah, it's credit to him for kind of trying to get himself past all the mistakes, trying to get himself past. I mean, you've got to dig out of it. The players that don't dig out of it are just mentally are not cut out for the league if they can't dig themselves out of it, because some of them can't. They hit that rough patch and they're out and they're done. But I was glad. I'm still on the fence. I think his distribution, 1 second it looks just world class, and the next second he's slamming it out of bounds. It's almost like he's a little. It's something I noticed. I think Silva encourages these guys to try to make the crazy perfect pass, and I think sometimes he's overly ambitious about some of those passes. You know,
I think as we develop as a counter-attacking team, Jordan Pickford's distribution will improve.
I think it would have to, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but 9 times out of 10, the player on the end of that killer ball is Bernard. And you know exactly what he does with it. He kills it perfectly with one touch and starts, going on some amazing run trying to take out defenders. Like, once we start having a better idea of who the forward line is, what our capabilities are of hitting teams on the counter attack, which me personally, I would love to see us, mould an identity around being a counter-attacking team, because I think when Everton do that, that's when Everton are at the best. But as I say, we're not exactly there yet, because the centre forward issue. There's the who have we got out wide. But as I say, once that starts to settle itself down, and I'm sure Pickford distribution will too.
Yeah, we just have so many questions about personnel, style. It's just. It's difficult to figure out. It's a lot to work out when you're still trying to figure out who should actually be starting, what fits best with what Silva's doing, is what Silva's doing right for what they have. There's a lot of questions to try to work all that out.
Yeah, and you've got to say, well, obviously with this January window now, you can say he's had 2 windows. Obviously, hasn't been able to bring anyone in the January. But, and I want to get your opinion on, Gerry. I really don't think, in particular, the centre halves, I don't think they're fit to this playing off in the back style that Silva wants us to play. Like, I was watching, whether it's Keane, whether it's Mina, whether it's Zuma, and I think they are 3 brilliant centre halves, and this is not a word against them in any sense, because they're very much a defender. The big, the strong, the tough. Not exactly the best with the feet, but I feel like that's what Silva demands from his centre halves.
I feel like you look at a lot of Keane's passing statistics, and they look all right. They look
better.
Yeah,
definitely
better than I guess I would have thought when he came in to us in the beginning. I thought he was just a big guy who could body up and. Wasn't going to be blazing with speed, but I didn't realize, he was as intelligent or as skilled of a passer as he is. As far as Mina and Zuma are concerned, it's tough because, what's funny is I mentioned Keane. He's the one I'm complimenting. He's also the one with some of his touch. The ball has bounced off his feet several times and given the other team valuable opportunities because his feet weren't soft enough to kill the ball when he needed to. So I'm complimenting the one that's actually given away some very obvious opportunities.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like our main problems that what we've been giving up. Mina, now he may have been injured this past game that he played, but he gave up some silly opportunities on free kicks to the opposition where he was nowhere close to actually, helping. Do you notice that high line we were playing on free kicks against Huddersfield? We were just super high. And it almost kind of was trying to take away the potency and ability of their players to get in any kind of scoring position off of those kicks.
Yeah. To be honest, it's a weird one because obviously that's where we're so notoriously poor this season. Defending free kicks. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to see some a proactive response. Mm-hmm. So that he's obviously said, right, we're conceding far too many goals from our current approach to zonal marking from set pieces. Switch it up a bit and play a high line. Obviously we didn't concede, we ran the risk, but we didn't. So if that's something that the defenders can conceptualize and pick up quicker, but then run with it.
See, Max, when you're talking about playing out the back, here's a question, and we should probably end with that because we're running long here. But in our 1-0 conversation, our 1-0 win, we're talking Huddersfield. It's running long just because there's actually a lot of stuff that can stem from this. When you're a manager and you want to instill a certain style that is your football philosophy, Do you cling like grim death to that style, or and make the players that you feel like have the tools eventually, and you rely on their ability to absorb and your ability to coach and manage? Or do you say, this is what I've got, I need to adapt around it to give the best possible result now instead of the best possible result a year from now?
If you're too stubborn, you get examples of, the huge example coming from this past season, Jose Mourinho at Manchester United, where you seem like you've got all the pieces, but it's for a completely different jigsaw.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you've got to accommodate for what you've got, particularly when you're in a really poor financial situation, as Marco Silva's landed himself in at Everton due to the misspendings of past regimes. You've got to adapt until you feel like you've recruited the correct players that can express this style of play that you want.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you feel like the center halves are giving the ball away too often from the back, if you notice a trend of that, then maybe you need to wait and train and make sure you've got the pieces around them to put them in the best possible position to be able to succeed. And then maybe they can develop that. But it's until they just have to be ready to handle it. That's all.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, kind of a wishy-washy response, but it's like yes and no, Max.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we should move on because this is a lot of stuff can stem from this game. Although it's a seemingly innocuous 1-0 win, there's just a lot to discuss. It's weird because you want to be positive and optimistic, but the manner in which that game was won, there's not a lot of comfort you can take from it. There's only little bits, little snack of comfort from that win. That's it.
Only ways up for me, really, nothing to play for. So let's go for it.
I'm still hoping for Europa League, Max. I can't help it. I know it's gonna kill me in the end. I know.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Max is like, you naive fellow. I'm sorry, Max. So I guess that's it for our Huddersfield reaction. If you've been digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We sincerely appreciate it. If you don't have time to watch the videos, if you want to listen on the go, check out our podcast. It'll be on Acast or on iTunes. Just check it out there. If you want more Max, check out, his Twitter feed will tell you where he's going to be. He does a lot of analysis, especially on the Toffee Blues website, where he will always be there. Always. So, yeah, Check that out. All right, that's it. We're going to move on to a Wolves preview. So, bye.